Hi everyone and welcome back to SwitchUp and to the video where we know what we do. We don't talk about what we do. We just add some things while perusing the gloriously rubbish shop windows of the Eshop that are actually worth adding to our collection, shall we say. Now if you want to save yourself 10% and support SwitchUp a little bit, you can use code SwitchUp on our website switchup.gg to buy your eShop credit. Someone asked the other day how that actually works. Essentially, Nintendo offer a commission for each sale and then we take a hit on that sale to give a discount. And a congratulations to the winner of the free game this week. Your comment was delightful, delightfully normal. What are the best games on sale this week? Well, let's find out. I'm currently working on a massive, all patched up episode for The Witcher 3, which has seen a huge update that finally brings it in line with the other platforms. And it's also got a 50% sale on at the moment, so yeah, it's a really good time to consider it. Now it's a 3D open world adventure game featuring Geralt of Rivia and his trusty steed Roach. It's been really nice going back to it because you realise how much content there is in it, and within the first half an hour of retesting some areas I found a troll that I had never found before and a little side mission that wasn't even marked on any of my quest logs. Great game, absolutely brilliant and well worth it. That sale goes on until August the 6th.
Thanks to G2A for sponsoring this episode. I used to use it back in the day on PC and it used to be decent. It's a website where you can buy games, software, gift cards and a lot more for great prices. They're having a console campaign where you can get a lot of decent console games for the Xbox, PlayStation and the Nintendo Switch, all at discounted prices. There are titles like Link's Awakening, Tears of the Kingdom and one of my favourites, Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope. But if you have PS5 or Xbox, you've got the likes of God of War Ragnarok and Diablo 4. It's not just games, you can get other things like gift cards, you can get your online subscriptions for the different consoles, and they even do random keys, where you don't know what you're going to get, but you'll definitely get more than the value you put in. Now every day there is a special offer that you'll find on the landing page, which is known as the deal of the day. You'll find a link to the landing page in the description and the top pinned comment, so go and have a look, see if there's anything you like, and just a big thanks to those guys for sponsoring this episode.
Then we have Cassette Beasts. Now when this came out on Switch, unfortunately it had so many performance issues. It was a real shame because it's probably one of the best, if not joint best, monster catching games on Switch. But as we always do, it's been patched up, so we revisit it, we have a little go. I wouldn't say it's completely perfect, but it's almost there and it is so much better than it was at launch, and it's at its lowest ever price. It can definitely be recommended. A very cool game that uses retro cassette tapes where you store your monsters to transform into. You can fuse different forms together, and in actual fact you can choose to fuse any two different monsters, and if I remember correctly there are literally hundreds or even thousands of combinations. I think it uses some form of visual procedural generation for the fusions to allow you to basically do whatever you want. A lovely little art style, 1 or 2 player multiplayer as well, and just a brilliant game that finally is performing the way it should and should definitely be added to your collection. Then you've got Dordon or Dordogne, how do you pronounce that one? But it's just over 12 quid, which is a real bargain, and it came out maybe a month or two ago. I think it was like the middle of June, and got completely overlooked because it was post Zelda and no one was buying or even looking at games. But this is a beautiful little adventure that has this almost watercolor art style. You play as Mimi and you're exploring recollections of your childhood, and in particular the times you shared with your late grandmother. I think just by that description you can get a little glimpse as to the atmosphere that the game creates and the overall mood. It can be a little melancholic, but it's also quite beautiful. The sale on that one goes on until August the 1st. You're looking at a reasonable 3.2GB download, and it's only a short little adventure, about 4 or 5 hours. SIFU is down to its lowest ever price of 24 quid. If you distilled the last 50 years of martial arts movies into a game, you basically would have SIFU. It has a much more complex attack, parry and counter system than I initially thought it would have, and mastering that takes a lot of time. Doesn't mean to say that you can't just pick up and play it, but you will get absolutely wrecked, and every time you die you get a year older, and there are certain skills that are locked at certain ages. So at 80 you're going to struggle to do backflips and stuff like that, but you can put extra points into those skills to permanently lock them, or permanently unlock them I should say. This is a game that's had a massive update again and included a load of free content and an arena mode, and it's also one that you shouldn't be ashamed to put on easy for your first run or two. Clocking in at 9.2 gigs and around about 15 to 20 hours of gameplay. That's SIFU which is on sale until August the 3rd. Curse of the Dead Gods is very much an underrated Hades clone with an interesting mechanic whereby you can take on a curse, and if you can carry that to the end of each section, it then becomes essentially a blessing. It has a light-dark mechanic that, well, plays on light and dark. In the darkness, enemies are stronger, you are weaker, and by lighting the torches, you can increase your chances and power. There are different weapons, including swords and spears, but there are also guns in there. Loads of different enemy types, some really nice bosses, but again, this one fell in the shadow of Hades and didn't get much attention. I think £7 is a bargain, 60% off, and 4.1 gigs won't take up too much space on that ever-shrinking SD card. That sale goes on until August the 1st. Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun is now 20% off. That's its cheapest ever price, down to £14, and it's a 90s style first-person shooter that tries to replicate, you know, like in Doom, they have that like flow mechanic where doing melee damage on enemies essentially gets your shield back and all of that. What Bolt Gun does is you have this move where you can close massive distances with the melee and then chainsaw through enemies. Now, it's normal pickups, so you'll be picking up health and items and ammo. There are lots of different secrets here, and I was a bit gutted that it didn't have any form of multiplayer. I think co-op in this game would be brilliant. Still, if you are after a old school 90s first-person shooter, this is definitely a good choice. Another that was essentially broken at launch because the sound didn't work, but since has had many patches. It actually got one yesterday, I think. Has a brilliant heavy metal soundtrack, very chunky, meaty feeling weapons. Clocks in at 2.4 gigs, and will take around 10 to 20 hours actually to find and do every little secret and hidden area. I just wish it had multiplayer. Now that sale goes on until August the 1st as well. That's Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun. Here in the UK and the EU regions, we've got a nice sale on the Outer Worlds. Now they actually reduced the base price of the game, so the sales don't look as good as they once did, but they are, if that makes sense. It's down to £16, which is 34% off of its new price. And this was a classic case of gameplay over beauty, shall we say, because it looked like an absolute dog's dinner when it came out. It was as if you woke up one morning and found yourself submerged in a tub of Vaseline. It really was a blur fest, but the core gameplay was still there, and if you were willing to, well, squint, then you can have a great time. Since launch, yes, it's had a load of patches. Is it still blurry? Yes, it is. Does it affect gameplay? Not at all. It really doesn't. It has the story in there, the side content. If you're looking for a Fallout type game, this is the best you're going to get on Switch. Obviously developed by Obsidian. This one was published by Private Division, but all of the DLCs are on sale at the moment as well. Now I've finished all of those. Peril on Gorgon was quite quick, but I did enjoy it, and I love the setting as well. It felt very Total Recall. Murder on Eridanos, that was a little more unusual. Played out obviously like a murder mystery, but then just as I was finishing that one up, they announced the sequel. Whether or not we'll get that on Switch or Switch 2 or whatever comes next kind of remains to be seen, but yeah, I do really like the Outer Worlds and highly recommend it. That sale goes on until August the 2nd. Then on to what I would class as one of the real roguelite gems, and it's Monster Train First Class, which is half price, and it will sear your retinas with its oversaturated, glorious art style as you board a train and fight the different levels as well as a boss in a game that would make Slay the Spire smile. It's incredibly addictive, has great music, great sound, a nice visual, and for all those people that say, oh, I don't like deck builders but haven't actually played them, I would, well, firstly you should play Slay the Spire because, you know, it's just incredible. And then there are many others, and I would say Monster Train First Class is right up there. Now it does have an online mode, this one, for up to 8 players. I haven't actually tried that, I've got to be honest. But essentially, each of the cards in your hand will have an offensive and defensive value or attribute, as well as often a special ability. And it's as simple as the left-hand side of the screen trying to defeat the right without losing too much so that you can then take on the rest of the train. Between the fights, you'll have areas that you can replenish, upgrade, and you'll permanently unlock new cards and find yourself unable to stop playing. Really good game, 1.2 gigs, so not big at all. That's Monster Train First Class, which is on sale until August the 2nd. Oh dear, Mark's talking about SnowRunner again. Yes, he is, because it's so damn good. There are only a few games that can make being stuck in mud and snow enjoyable. In fact, I can only think of one. No, actually, this and the prequel. Prequel? It was a prequel, wasn't it? Sequel? The game before. What would that be called? Predecessor. That's the one. But SnowRunner at the moment is 40% off. And just forget that it's a game about trucks. Think of it more as like an RPG that happens to have vehicles in it rather than people. There are tons of different quests, and sure, they're not going to be like go and kill the prince. They're going to be like go and collect the logs, or go and pull that car out of the bog, or upgrade your engine, or buy yourself a new nice livery and a new horn sound, and then join your mate online to go and collect logs. But trust me on this, it's amazing. Check out the full review of it. I cannot recommend it more highly. And it has been nice over the months and years as I've recommended it, seeing the people come in the comments and say, I had never played a game like this before, but it is brilliant. That sale for SnowRunner goes on until August the 1st. Here's an unusual little hidden gem. It's called Wolf Stride. Believe it or not, this is actually like a JRPG. It's currently half price, again on a lower price, so they kind of reduced it over time because I don't think it was selling too well. But it's £5.99, that is an absolute bargain. It centres on 3 old partners in crime who have come to a turning point in their lives, and they inherit a junkyard mecha called Cowboy. Now, it was Asdin that did the review of this one, I think. At least I think it was. It might have been Glen. But he absolutely loved it. He loved the art style. Thought the combat was really good fun. But it was that unusual storyline with this art combined into a JRPG that he didn't really expect. And yeah, he enjoyed it a lot. And I know it's one of those that has a bit of a following, but it's very small. It's like a little cult classic. So yeah, nice little hidden gem, that one. That sale goes on until August the 3rd. And as always, I'll pop a link to any reviews that we've got of these games in the description. For the perfect loading game, then you can consider Dr. Fetus Mean Meat Machine, which you'll also find a demo of if you want to go check it out. It's essentially Super Meat Boy meets Tetris. There are tons of levels. It's very addictive. It just, I think, is a little bit underwhelming for a Super Meat Boy game, but as someone who has a little collection of loading games, so those games that you just put on, you don't have to think about it, you just play a few levels of that and it helps you decide what you actually want to play. For me, this was a really good little pickup. But as I said at the start, check the demo out and see what you think of it. That sale goes on until August the 27th. Moonlighter has an 85% discount. That's in the EU regions, the base version of the game. A brilliant mixture of a kind of a roguelite, Zelda, and a shop management title, where during the daytime you take all the loot you got in the evenings and you sell it in your shop. There's a bit of crafting in here as well. There's an enchantment system, but it is difficult. There's no two ways about it. It's brutal. Then you got the DLC content, which is even more brutal, but it has a chef's kiss soundtrack, this one. I'm sure you can hear the Moonlighter track 4 playing in the background. I always like to use that in the videos sometimes. It's just such a nice song. So although Moonlighter does have a lot of sales, it is definitely worth adding to your collection if you don't own it already, and there is a physical of this available as well. That sale goes on until the middle of August. There's a decent little sale on Shin Chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, The Endless 7-Day Journey, which is a ludicrously long name. And if you're familiar with the Shin Chan animated series, then if you've watched the original, they're absolutely hilarious, although the translation can be a little bit difficult to understand. They're very edgy, like there's some very adult humour in them. And then it got brought across to America. And I wouldn't say it's watered down, but it's been adapted, I guess, for the Western audience. And it loses a little something in the translation. Now, this Shin Chan game is true to the original, but it does have some adaptation in terms of translation. Now, as the title suggests, you are on a summer vacation. There is an antagonist who pops up, but it's all about the day-to-day activities, talking to people in the town, trying to help them with their issues. In that regard, it has like sim life elements as well. And it isn't like, I don't know, it's not like one of those games that has a constant, I have to do this right now. You might find yourself wandering around and like collecting butterflies with your net, but there was something charming about it. I am quite a fan of walking simulators and that type of thing. And while I didn't completely understand everything here, I did enjoy it when I reviewed it, and it took around 10 to 15 hours to finish. Shin Chan is on sale until August the 8th, and that's 30% off. Now, each and every week, without fail, I buy a game because I kind of want to partake in the experience. Plus, I think I might be slightly addicted to the little jingle the Eshop makes when you buy something. And my pickup this week is a game called Backbone that I'd never heard of before. It was 60% off. I think it was about 9 squid, which I think is a bit of a bargain really, but it falls into one of my favourite niche genres, which is the old school adventure. We used to call them point and click adventures, but without a mouse that doesn't really make much sense. I guess you can kind of drag and click. But this describes itself as a post-noir narrative adventure where you become Raccoon Private Eye Howard Lotor, and it's all set within a dystopian Vancouver. The best thing for me about these games is always it's the setting, it's the art, and it's the storyline, and it does those things well. There are some really interesting characters that you meet. Obviously I haven't finished it just yet, but I do love the art style, and it has a great soundtrack as well. It's quite a stunning looking game really. It would take around 5 to 8 hours to completely finish it. It was developed by Eggnut and published by Raw Fury. and that sale goes on until August the 3rd. We then have 3 lovely SAVALOYs, or Costco hot dogs, or whatever your regional equivalent cheap snack is, and these are less than £2.50 here in the UK and about $3 in the US. First up, for £1.54, 90% off, we have Banners of Ruin. Now, yeah, it had a few bugs at launch, and I think that's probably an understatement, and there are still a few bugs in there, but for just over £1, this is a brilliant deck building roguelite. If, for whatever reason, you find yourself absolutely flush for cash this week, you could double up that purchase and buy their other deck building roguelite from the same people, or at least the same publisher, Legend of Keepers, Career of a Dungeon Manager. This was very, very influenced by Slay the Spire, and you had your units on the left and many different heroes that you could unlock, but you hired monsters, and it worked in reverse, so you put your monsters on each screen, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time, and then you're defending rather than attacking. Very nice little twist on a formula, kind of reminded me of my old days playing Dungeon Keeper. Obviously the gameplay's nothing like it, but just some of those monster designs, yeah, I like that a lot. The sale on those goes on until August the 16th. They're both 90% off. As Far as the Eye is also 90% off, taking it down to just over £1. And get this, you play as the Wind, guiding the pupils, a tribe that must reach the centre of the world. That would be the first time I've ever played as the Wind. Good at producing the Wind. I think it was Glen that reviewed this, but I do love one of these strategy games. We have a video of it, maybe you can go check that out. And then finally we have Masters of Anima, which is 75% off. It has a really cheesy storyline, but the gameplay I enjoyed. It's basically Pikmin combined with like an action RPG. And then that is it. We don't have any Void this week because I didn't do one of the Avoid videos this week, but we did review the new Zelda, well, not the new Zelda, those 2 Zelda releases that came onto the app. They're actually really good, so you can check the video out for that if you want. We also reviewed a couple of very addictive games. Ember Flame, or Ember Knights it was called, wasn't it? Was stupidly addictive. Go check out the review of that one. And if you want to buy any of these games, save yourself 10%, 5% off instantly using code SwitchUp, and we'll also give you 5% back in our coins. Thanks to all of you, to our Patreons, to our members, and as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!